All right, folks, what's going on? This is episode 696 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Okay, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And I've been out of town. I had to go on a trip. I had to take care of some business. Finally got that taken care of. That's why you didn't have an episode yesterday. But I just got back in from going across state lines. I had to go to another state and handle some stuff. So got that taken care of. So thumbs up to that. But we're back in business. Hopefully everybody had a safe Halloween if you have children and all that good stuff. But a lot of things have happened since the last episode was aired. And we're going to talk about this. Taylor Heinicke, he is now the starter. I don't think this actually qualifies as QB1, but he is the starter for the Falcons going against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings just picked up Josh Dobbs. Really interesting. Now, there's a lot of other transactions that happen. You know, the Montez Sweat situation. He's going to the Bears, which, that's interesting. And what's really interesting, Chase Young is going to be next to his former college teammate, Joey Bosa. That's going to be very interesting how that defensive line is going to work. So that's something to look out for on other ends of the spectrum. But for the Falcons, we lost Grady Jarrett, which sucks, but we have somebody in his place, which is not going to be all the way up to par. We talked about him on the last episode, but I think he's going to be actually a little bit better. We also signed someone else off the practice squad. You guys have to forgive me because I don't necessarily know who that was, but we did sign a guy from the Bears practice squad to the 53-man roster, and from what I heard, he is pretty good as well. So it's going to be interesting how they rotate the defensive line. Now, I've said enough about that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Taylor Heinicke. This is going to be really interesting when we look into what may happen if he beats the Vikings. I ain't going to say he beat the Vikings, but what if the Falcons beat the Vikings? What if they go on a winning streak? They beat the Cardinals. They turn around and beat the Saints. They beat the Jets. What if Taylor Heinicke helped elevate the Falcons? What if they become a team that win the next 4 out of 5 or the next 5 out of 6? You know what I'm saying? What happens if they go on a winning streak in general? You know, what if they win, the next, 5 out of 7? What happens? I mean, that's an honest question I asked. So it's something to think about, So I personally, if that's the case, we may be in the sweepstakes to find another quarterback. And I'm talking about just in general. I think Taylor Heinicke has 2 good years with us, or just 2 good years left in this game. Now, I could be wrong, because Taylor Heinicke is, he's fairly, I don't know how old or young he is. I want to look it up and find out, because I need to know. Because it's going to be interesting with his age to know how long, how much longevity he may have. He's 30 years old, so he may have a good 4 years left in him. I don't think that we'll sign him for 4 more years, but I think with the way that he plays the game, you can get probably 2 good years out of him. And I think that's what the Washington Commanders did. They signed him to a 2-year deal, which was actually a pretty good deal for them at the time. And I think he's just that solid. But I think if he ends up getting this team on a nice little winning streak, or if we win like the next, 4 out of 5 or something like that, there may be a real discussion. I don't think, to be honest, I would probably move away from Desmond Ridder at that point, because the type of quarterback you would need for this offense. And you've developed Desmond Ridder for an entire year. And, pretty much, I ain't gonna say it here, for 13 plus weeks last year and throughout the whole offseason, and look at the results you've gotten, and I'm not saying it's all based on, talent or whatever the case may be. Just some guys just can't, they just don't work out. And that's okay. Because, I mean, I'm not thinking Desmond Ridder don't belong in the NFL. I think he's fine. I think he's okay. But okay is just not enough. I mean, you're going to have to get better. You're going to have to be able to go in and make some things better right away. When you look at a guy like Will Levis, and you can make the case that Desmond Ridder was way more decorated than Will Levis in college, Will Levis just came in and just lit it on fire. Now there was some crazy calls that happened, a couple of touchdowns that you could say that probably shouldn't have happened. But Will Levis looked really good throwing the football. And that was up against the defense. People want to say that the defense, is terrible and this, that, and the third. The defense just had a bad day. There were some instances they looked like they had a bad day, but there are some instances where the Titans offense just did better things. And I think Will Levis threw the ball very well. So, you just can't put that on the defense. The ball placement, the way that he, handled the situations, certain ways that he was in the pocket, he just looked better. He looked more confident. He looked like he was ready to go. Desmond Ridder still has this notion about him that, yeah, he can make some plays, but you still see that notion like he's not necessarily comfortable or not necessarily ready, or he just don't know. So now that's what I'm saying. So when you have that factor in a guy, and you have another quarterback that's coming in that possibly could elevate this team to where it's going to be very difficult to pull him out of the game, you're probably going to be looking for another quarterback. And that's just my gut feeling. That's what I would do. And it's nothing against Desmond Ridder. I think he'll still be on the roster or whatever the case may be. I would, if he continues to show promise. But as far as just trotting him out there to think that he's going to take this extremely talented team to greater heights, I think that ship is almost sailed. That ship is almost sailed. It just is what it is. It's one thing just not to be able to execute and not make things happen, but when you're turning the ball over and you can't see certain things and this, that, and the third, you may need to look at other things, as far as other people. Now, everything's not his fault. I'm not going to sit here and say that because I know I'm 7 minutes in and a lot of people be like, oh, yeah, you're blaming Desmond Ridder for everything. No, I'm not going to say that. Everything is not his fault, but you're the quarterback. You got to elevate the team. You don't want to they don't want to give you the reins for have everybody to be confident in you and for them to raise the level of their game. They're relying on you for contracts. Some of these receivers are relying on you for contracts. You know what I mean? You look at a guy like Jonnu Smith, you look at a guy like Mac Hollis, you look at a Scotty Miller. Those guys are relying on you for contracts. And if you can't get the job done, they will turn on you. So that's something that really needs to be, looked at. When you see Taylor Heinicke came in the game, hey, that might be a flash in the pan. That may be something that just happened for that half. He may go up against the Vikings and wet the bed. But when if that really happens, you really are looking for a quarterback now. I would say, what, I'll just say it here. I'll say it here. I'll say it right now. If Taylor Heinicke does good, if he does really good these next 5, 6, 7 games, if he plays that long, let's just say if he plays that long, if he goes out there this next game and plays good enough where you do not want to pull him, and he's going up against the Cardinals next, and he plays good, and he continues to, like I said, if he plays well, it's going to be hard to pull him. I'm going to say this right now. I think you go all in to get a franchise quarterback next year. You already got all the pieces. You got the running backs. You got the receivers. Like I said, you got Drake London. You're gonna be able to re-sign somebody else as a receiver. You still got Kyle Pitts under a contract. So your offense, you may need to help on the offensive line, but your offense is pretty much there. There's some rumblings, people saying that we're already a QB away of making a deep run in the playoffs. I agree. You got a top 5 defense and an offense that really should be able to score a lot of points. I'm not against that. If this happens, if Taylor Heinicke elevates the Falcons to that point, you get Taylor Heinicke to continue to be the backup. I don't know what you're going to do with Desmond Ridder. I don't know what you're going to do with Logan Woodside, but I think you go all out to try to get your franchise quarterback at that point. And I'm not talking about trying to get somebody in the 3rd round or 2nd round or whatever. You got guys that are coming out of college right now. A lot of these guys are Pac-12 guys. You got a guy in North Carolina. You got probably maybe 5 quarterbacks that you can put some time in And to be quite honest, you don't have to start them right away because you already got a guy that can play some ball. And especially if he's able to elevate the Falcons like anywhere near or close to what he did against the Titans, you don't have any pressure to rush that high value or that high draft pick quarterback in the game. So I'm saying this right now on November 11th, that's what I would do. I would probably go ahead and just go all in for a quarterback. It's going to be even hard either way. If Taylor Heinicke balls out, go ahead and go all in. If he don't ball out, you're really going to be in trouble. If you don't ball out, you don't have to go all in for a quarterback because the draft pick could probably be there for a quarterback. So that's basically how I feel about that at this point. Like, what happens if he goes on a 4, game win streak? What happens if they win the next 5 or 6? What happens if they win the next 6 or 7? Because we got 7 games left, 9 games left? What if he wins the next 3 or the next 2? What if he wins this Sunday? Do you take him out and put Desmond Ridder back in? See, the problem is, and I'm going to finish up on this. The problem is if you do take him out, if we win against the Vikings, and you take him out and put Ridder in, and Ridder can't play against the Cardinals very well, or he's not given that level that Taylor Heinicke has helped this team do, it's going to be a really big problem. And Coach Arthur Smith is going to have to answer for that. So that's something that we really going to have to think about. So this is a very, very tough situation for Coach Arthur Smith. And he kind of put himself in it. He kind of put himself in it by, this whole thing with trying to bring a quarterback in that's, I don't even know how to describe Ridder. A guy that's probably not as advertised as we thought he was. He's not grasping everything as fast as the coach thought he would. You trying to bring a guy like that in, and you trying to, basically do what they did with a Jalen Hurts or what they did with, other, you say Brock Purdy. To be honest, it still could work. But what happens if they try to put him back in there and nothing changes? What if he comes back in there and he ruins any momentum that this team had because of Taylor Heinicke? What happens? It's an honest question. I don't want to sit here and say that's going to be the beginning of the end of Coach Arthur Smith. I like him as a coach. I just think with all the things he's done with this team, they developed a really good team. They got the right pieces in every place. But it just for some reason the quarterback is not hitting on. It's not hitting on like everything else should, and that could be detrimental, not just to the team, but the coach's job as well. So let me know what you guys think, man. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think, man. What happens if Desmond Ridder can't get his job back? What happens if Taylor Heinicke wins the next 2 out of 3? 4 out of 5? What if they win the next 5? What happens? What happens if he plays really well against the Vikings and it'll be very tough to pull him out for the Cardinals game? And what if they do pull him and Desmond Ridder does the same thing he did against, other teams this season? What happens? I can be found on YouTube and Rumble, also Anchor, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Subscribe to any of those avenues. That really helps. If something's happened on one avenue, you can listen to it on the other. I can also be found on X at VF Baller. And the website is firstandframerates.com. Last but not least, the Cash App is VF Baller 20. VF Baller 20, just like it says on the handle, but put 20 at the end. And go ahead and, if you don't mind, support the channel, support the show, support the podcast. It all helps. It all is going to be invested back into what we do here. All right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. I said enough. I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.